Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome to Soulfullpreneur Tuesday. It's Rachel Archelaus here, and actually in the same location as Megan Crandlemire.
Hello.
I'm back in Connecticut for the week and actually leaving tomorrow, so we were just really happy to be together and to be able to talk to you today. And today's going to be a really cool show. We're talking about repeating patterns, and, you know, the ones that stand out are normally the ones that we don't want. Like, have you ever had someone in your life who has been kind of like, you know, the annoying person, but they always seem to have the same name? Or perhaps you play out the same patterns over and over again with certain people and they do the same thing. And, you know, that's what we're going to be talking about later and how to break free from that. So it's going to be an interesting show. And first, though, we're going to talk about our network a little bit and the upcoming shows. We're part of the ENlightenment Evolution Network. And if you want to hang out with us in between and get a lowdown on what everybody's doing every day, you can join our Facebook group. It's ENlightenment Evolution Network on Facebook. And tonight we're having a show, Victoria V. Race Wong's Earth Sky People Radio, and it's your bridge between heaven and earth, where she talks about oneness with one another, with Mother Earth, and with life beyond Earth. And that show is at 9 p.m. Eastern.
And then on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have the Enlightenment Evolution Hour with Rob Gauthier. And Rob is the person who started our network here. And he hosts a show every Wednesday. And he channels Treb, who takes callers' questions. And you can find more about Rob on trebchanneling.com.
And Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, we have Philip Malika's Consciousness Evolution Hour. And he really goes in depth on a wide range of topics regarding the fifth dimension. And you can find a really great group of people to connect with on those topics if you go to facebook.com/groups/SethAbe. It's the Consciousness Evolution 2.0 group. I think I'm getting that right. Yeah. It's a really good group, even if I can't remember the name. So check him out. And his show is at 9 p.m. I think I said that.
And then Friday nights at 9 p.m. we have the Earth Experience with Kalina Angel. And she explores our soul's expansion through our human experiences on Earth.
And Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, we have the Odyssey Ascension with Roxanne Swainhart. She has a 2-hour show that is awesome and goes over all sorts of things about the Ascension and ETs, soul purpose, energy activations, and past lives. Check her out for sure.
And then Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, we have About Oneness with Karen Newman. And she's focused on celebrating the ongoing conscious awakening of our planet and our realization of oneness and unconditional love. And Karen is an author, lecturer, integrated channel, and intuitive.
And Mondays at 9:30 Eastern, we have Heart to Heart Radio with Daniel Scranton. And he's got a great show. Talks about channeling, global events, energy work, toning, ETs, all sorts of amazing things. And you can always call into his show and take place in a really high vibrational discussion. And Daniel was just in Connecticut for an event on Friday, and we were just so blessed to have him. It was so fun.
Yeah,
so thanks,
like
Daniel.
In person, so.
Yeah.
That's great. So for those of you listening live today, if you want to call in to listen on your phone or you want to ask a question or get a reading from Rachel, you can call 347-308-8788. And if you want to talk to us or ask a question, just press 1 and that'll raise your hand on our dashboard. So there's that detail. And then you can find us on Facebook if you search Soulful with 2 L's, Preneur. And we also have a website, soulfullpreneur.com.
Yeah, just one more quick announcement. We had a guest on a couple weeks ago named Sherry. And as you remember, she was talking about traveling and doing retreats, and she's a real expert in that area and how to put that retreat together and, make it really relevant and add to the experience. And she's having a free webinar tonight about doing that. How do you do that? What places do you pick? And if you go to our Facebook page, you can get the link there to register. So go to Soulfullpreneur on Facebook and check that out. I'm going. Megan's going.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's going to be really great information.
Definitely, because we're starting to plan our first Soulfullpreneur retreat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's got some great tips. So it's exciting. So patterns. I know that certain things have come up for me over and over, but it isn't until the last couple of years that I even realized that was happening. But sometimes if you reflect back and pull up a little bit out of your everyday life and take a look at your friends or relationships or holiday events and so forth, and does the same thing keep happening over and over and over again? I know I attracted a certain type of friend that was not exactly a listening friend. They talked at me, and I had multiple of these, and it wasn't until I became really aware of it that seemed to stop happening, and I had to face it and address it. But there's all sorts of patterns. Even in our businesses, there's patterns. We get to maybe a certain point, and we make so much money a year, we can never get over that hurdle, or we keep running into the same type of client we don't want, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and maybe how to break the cycle.
Yeah, it's kind of a continuation of our busting loose from the money game talk, and that he talks a lot about patterns and how to deal with things that aren't so comfortable when they come up, like a lot of these patterns will produce. So, and I think the premise is that if we have a desired outcome that's different than what we have now, well, there's a reason why it's different. We're holding on to these limiting patterns and limiting beliefs, and we have to either face them and let them go, gain awareness and let them go, or transmute them in some way in order to have our desired outcome, because these are the patterns that are like standing in the way from having that outcome. So we have to get rid of them somehow, and a lot of us play them out. Like there's an example I have of like this pattern coming up and then overcoming it through awareness from the summertime. So Megan and I were actually kind of co-teaching a class over the summer, and it turned out that like we were not in the mood. We weren't in the mood to do it, and which was really rare, but there we were broadcasting to the universe our frequency of not really wanting to do the class, and the sign-ups were really low. There were maybe like 6 or 7 people signed up, where 10 is kind of the minimum that we would prefer. And so, leading up to it, nothing was changing. I was kind of in a bad mood about it. And all of a sudden I just realized, like, whoa, what am I doing? I'm the one creating this pattern. I'm the one, making it so that no one can sign up because my energy is literally blocking it. And so I reframed. I did the process. I got rid of that energy that I was putting out. And I was like doing my best to feel my frequency of what I wanted, that joyful wealth frequency. Like everybody's signing up. It's great. I'm going to teach it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to love it. And then something happened that had never, ever happened before. I went there to teach the class. I think we'd had maybe 1 or 2 more people sign up. But then like 5 more just showed up the day of the class. And that never has happened before. Never. No one has ever just showed up at the class and say, oh, I didn't register, but can I come? It's a 6-week course. You're supposed to register ahead of time. And it just goes to show you that if you take charge of your energy, and if you notice your patterns and you consciously correct them, anything can happen, even things that seem impossible. Having 13 people in the class, It's not like that was impossible. It wasn't like a huge miracle or anything, but it was exactly what we wanted. That was a huge success. That's like the biggest that we want, the class, but it's almost double what we had previous to me taking back control of my vibration. So, and it turned out great. It was like one of the best groups of people I'd ever worked with. So there's one pattern for you with, and it's related to business and,
Yeah.
If you have any stories of this kind of thing, definitely call in because we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah. So you briefly, in passing, mentioned the process.
Yeah, I know.
So we should just talk a little bit about that. And hopefully for our regular listeners, you tuned in a few weeks ago for our episode about Busting Loose from the Money Game, which is a book that Rachel and I read this year, and we just found super interesting. A lot of challenging ideas in that book. And just to remind people that on October, I think it's 14th, we're going to have our first book club radio show. So we're encouraging people to get that book and to read the first 9 pages. 9 chapters, excuse me. But in it, he talks about the process, which is, first of all, awareness that there is some sort of pattern or issue that you're struggling with. And then taking some steps to face it and to acknowledge that, well, you're creating everything. You take responsibility for everything in your life, even the yucky stuff. And then just to acknowledge it and learn to release it. And he, kind of offers different ways of releasing it and taking that power back so that you don't have to repeat that pattern again and again. And I think with some of the patterns in our lives that happen often, or maybe some that are super important, like with family and issues with that, releasing that takes more than one try, don't you think? It takes a few, and you'll see different things come up, and when you start to work on these patterns, and first of all, just to acknowledge it, I think makes a dent in them, and then when you start to acknowledge them and learn to release them, more stuff starts to come up fairly quickly, because it's almost like all these things want to say, I want to be released. So you go through a bit of a rough patch, I think, and then it's smoother sailing. What do you think? I think that was me over the past couple of years.
I definitely agree. Yeah. We all have these things just ingrained in us, and we just don't even know. There are a lot of things that hit entrepreneurs when they start in their business where they don't want to be perceived as annoying, so they won't promote themselves because, they have that belief that if you talk about what you do, then you're bothering people. And we have this belief that we don't deserve wealth, or that if we're spiritual, we're bad people if we make money. And whether you really think consciously that you believe that or not, a lot of times they're just in there. And so we have, mountains of limiting patterns that we need to release. And you're right, it's like when we take one out, it starts a rock slide, and they all want to come out because they're all related. They're just a little bit different. So I have definitely found that it's like a joke in the spiritual community where the clearing work never stops.
Yeah.
I've been working with a spiritual mentor pretty consistently for the past 10 years, and it's all about the clearing. It's all about releasing our notion that this is anything other than illusion, and which takes a long time, and reclaiming your power and all this stuff. So I'm still doing it, but you're right in that you can reach this critical point where it's no longer just about like suffering and clearing and going through things, where it's most of the time everything is really great. I'm definitely in that most of the time everything is really great, but I definitely suffer from patterns coming up that I need to address and play out and have a little drama around, like I just went through on this trip. So yeah, we're still human. Even though we're here, we're spiritual, we understand the game, we're still human, which I think is good.
Yep. So in the Busting Loose book, he talks about our world being kind of a hologram, a holographic universe, and we're creating that for ourselves. So that's a rocking kind of concept right there. But then Scheinfeld talks about the people in your life and that they're all playing a role. So I like to look at issues with people or situations now when I run into somebody I don't like or some event that is not pleasing, and just think, well, what is this reflecting back to me? Because why is it bothering me so much? And it's kind of interesting when you do that. You just sit back and just reflect on, okay, so this person seems really aggressive or really hostile. Okay, well, is there something in me that is hostile right now, or mad about something? Am I not letting something go? Or so it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to watch situations unfold with that. Like, gee, if I'm creating this, then why am I doing this to show it to myself? I don't know. It's also a lot of responsibility, because sometimes it's easier just to think, oh, these things happen to me, instead of me allowing them to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Like going through what I went through this weekend with people, it would have been easy for me to say, oh, that person that did this to me and it's all their fault. But what actually happened was that I saw my part in it, and I saw how my ego, my mind created a scenario that was completely not even true. Mm-hmm. The scenario in my head that my mind was creating, like, oh, I can't believe this person did this and blah, 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 wasn't even real. Mm-hmm. If you go to just the facts and what actually happened, my mind was creating this big, gigantic story based on the past, based on, what would make me feel more animated and, upset and dramatic. And once I saw that kind of playing out from a distance, it really helped me to get past it and to just send unconditional love my way and to the other person's way. And even though that didn't completely nullify what I was feeling, it really helped to calm me down and to put everything in perspective. So, it doesn't fix everything, but I think as you do the process more and more, even in your own way, it doesn't have to be Scheinfeld's way, and you start to see the patterns and you allow yourself to see how you create everything, it's quite fascinating, really, and really helpful to get you back on the track of your actual desires instead of stuck in drama, which happens to a lot of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of creating things, I'm happy to report that I have a new member to our family, which is a little cat, and he showed up this summer on our deck, and he was not fed really at all, and he wasn't in good health, and you see this little face at the door, and of course you need to feed it and so forth. But Rachel reminded me today at lunch how just in my talking, I've been kind of talking about maybe getting a dog, or I have room for another animal, do I want to take that on, and the cost and the responsibility, so I was really doing nothing. But apparently, I was ready, and I love that. I love that this little cat, who has so much personality and so much love for being an animal that's really not been taken care of by anybody, has been living outside, he is amazingly tame and smart and sweet and loving, and he found us instead of me going out and finding him, and so I think it's lovely. So we really are creating what we need, and yeah, it was kind of fun. It was fun. So yeah, so the process is a big part of what Rachel and I have used over the last few months, and Scheinfeld, just talks about recognizing the patterns and taking the power away. I know you consider even one step further with that, which is kind of vibrationally bringing yourself up to a different level, and then you stop attracting so much of the icky stuff. Do you want to talk a little bit about up-leveling vibration? I know we talked a little bit about that in the past, but that's another way of bringing more of what you want.
Absolutely.
By running on a different frequency.
Yeah. So, and I think they're related. Like, Scheinfeld is looking at things in terms of kind of clearing your slate, like knocking out those patterns so that you just don't carry them anymore, and there's absolutely no chance of them coming back to you, because all those patterns have their own vibration within your system. And so if you're competing, like you're wanting a great job, but you're holding patterns that you'll never get a great job, or that's impossible, he's saying knock that out and you're free to have what you want effortlessly. And I see it the same way, but I feel like we don't always have to play out our patterns in order to get rid of them, which in his process it includes like having to play it out. It includes like when you're playing something out, that's when you get rid of it. So sometimes, in my life, when that stuff comes up and I'm dragged into it, then obviously I will address it in the moment. But when you notice yourself just kind of aimlessly wandering or not really engaged in life or wanting a different situation, you can just choose to put yourself in a different vibration, which will, in essence, kind of put you in a whole new plane of existence so that block didn't even exist. It's really no longer there. And so there's no need to clear anything. You just become a different person, which sounds a lot easier, right? Like, like let's just change our vibration and become different people, and then we won't attract that other thing anymore.
It's not instant results, though.
It can be.
It can be.
It can be. Mm-hmm. Right, but it isn't always. So, but I have had many instances where, like, I have launched a product or talked to a client, or like in the case of the class, I'm starting a class in a week and nobody signed up. I could go into freak out mode, or I can put myself in that joyful wealth vibration and really feel and act as if I am joyfully wealthy. And I'm not talking about going out and spending all my money. I'm talking about carrying myself like I could, right? Whatever I want, just have it. I have everything I need, and really feel it in every cell of my body. Overnight, people sign up. Overnight, I've gotten checks in the mail. Overnight, I've gotten people who've owed me money for months send me the money. Like, it can be really instant. And changing your vibration, I liken it to just being a mature person. Like, when you do something bad, right, and you don't want to fess up, you're kind of slinking away from responsibility, when all you would need to do is kind of take in a breath, go tell the truth. It sucks, but you have to do it anyway. Changing our vibration feels really similar. It feels like we have to take responsibility for where we are now, right? Like, we're in this crappy place. I don't know if I can swear on Blog Talk Radio, so we're in this crappy place. Yeah. But we created it. We're taking responsibility, and then we're free to kind of be who we want to be. And it just feels like putting your big girl boots on, being who you want to be regardless of what your circumstances are, and then your circumstances can change. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think I've mentioned in the past that I think it was Mike Dooley's quote of, he was just talking about realizing, okay, wait, I'm in this awful place right now, but only I can change it. And he looked around at what his opportunities were, and he said, frankly, I took the least sucky option.
Yeah.
And then one foot in front of the other, and then he took the next least sucky option until all of a sudden the option started to get good. So, yeah.
Yeah. And as far as, like, vibration goes, you can tell where you are. You have to check in with your body. Are you feeling sluggish? Are you feeling unmotivated, uninspired? Well, you know enough about yourself. You know what's going to make you smile. You know what fresh air does. Like, go outside and take a breath. The hardest part of this is allowing ourselves to change to a different vibration. It really does we feel resistant to it. It really does feel hard. Like, going to work when you don't want to go, like, you know, going to do something you don't want to do. It's that taking responsibility and being mature. It takes effort to change your vibration, because if it didn't, we wouldn't be in the lower vibration.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, with your the boot camp that you have, the business boot camp, didn't you just have a thing where you had people create a Pinterest board?
Yes.
And I think that's kind of a fun way. I mean, people have worked on vision boards in the past. I think you have to get really honest with yourself when you do a vision board, because you need to put things on there that you truly desire, and not what you think you should desire or what the neighbors have. Well, the neighbors have a big boat. I want a big boat. Do you really want a big boat? As far as I'm concerned, there's like a lot of maintenance, and it's more fun to rent. But yeah. So I think that one way of getting your vibration up every day is to have some sort of vision board, or like a Pinterest board, a little something with some visuals up there, maybe even some quotes up there to remind yourself, hey, this is who I really am, and this is where I'm really headed. So I've used it for that in the past. I've used Pinterest for that.
Mm-hmm.
Helpful.
That's really cool. I've done that too, and the students who did the assignment, it was really a contest. It wasn't an assignment. That sounds really boring. But they said they really felt like the person they wanted to be. They really felt the vibration of it, because they used all their senses. You know, they figured out what they wanted to smell, how they wanted to dress, how they wanted their hair, what they wanted in their life, the kind of people, music, everything. So it was really well-rounded. And when I was looking at them, I could feel who that person was. It was really cool. So, yeah, I highly recommend that. Like, figure out what your vibration, you know, where do you want to live? Who do you want to be? What kind of job do you want? What kind of friends do you want? Mm-hmm. And make a visual representation of that so that you can see it. Because it just goes back to Einstein. You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't change your life living at the same vibration that you've been living at, because you won't see any new options. Mm-hmm. You have to raise above, like Megan says, pull up. Mm-hmm. You have to pull up. You have to come at it from a different vibration so that you can see the options that are available in that perspective, mm-hmm. because they'll be different. You know, it's like when we're inspired and in love, everything's awesome, right? Like, we can see all these opportunities, and it's like, it's so great, and life is wonderful. But then when we go, like, back to reality is what they call it. Mm-hmm. I hate that term. Like, make reality the good one. Don't make it the bad one.
Yeah.
And then we lose it, right? We lose that fresh perspective when we go back to reality, when really just choose the bigger vibration. Choose to live there, and you can create whatever you want because you have that open-mindedness to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I live in a bubble. I'm going to be totally honest about that. I don't watch the news, and neither does Megan.
I do not. I have not for almost 2 years.
And it's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's great.
I don't need to know about the local stabbings.
I know.
Found that my life is very happy without that information.
Like, there will be people alive now whose job it is, who they came here to help address global issues like mm-hmm. that, you know, and they're going to listen to the news, and they're going to be involved. But for me, my path is different. And you can tell if you need to watch the news if your life is going to change because of what you hear. If you're going to get inspired to do something to help by watching the news and learning what's going on, then by all means do it, because you're part of the solution. Mm-hmm. But if all it does is drag you down to hear, like, oh, 5 people got murdered today in Baghdad, like, that doesn't drag me up. That drags me down. So I don't participate.
Yeah.
But my heart goes out to everybody. I still love everybody.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I don't think that we're not living with our head stuck in the sand. I'm aware of what I need to be aware of. I just realized that, yeah, there's just too much negativity, and it just drags you down and drags your vibration down. And we have to be careful what we expose our kids to. I mean, I think that was one of my realizations with the news, was watching my daughter eat her cereal, listening to all these terrible things happening. I thought, there's time for her to be exposed to that, and now is not the time.
Exactly, and talk about patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can we talk about you, Mallory? Can I talk about you? Okay, so Megan's daughter is here, and she's a really remarkable human being. She's really, really smart, really motivated, absolutely wonderful, and it doesn't surprise me that Megan raised her without that influence. It really doesn't, because, you know, a lot of my kids have a lot of my friends have amazing kids. And a lot of them have had that similar worldview and, you know, kind of sheltering them from all the needless negativity of the world. And I can see that it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I think it does. And it just teaches your kids to stay focused on what truly is important, which is their work and general news and world events, but not the barrage of negativity. So I'm glad we made that change. And once they're 18, they can get their own cable subscription. Anyway.
That's really cool. Yeah. It's all based on ratings anyway, so the less people who watch the negative stuff, you know, the more say we'll have when it needs to change because no one's watching the news anymore. Mm-hmm. Then we can actually get what we want.
Right.
Yeah, like I was at my mom's last night for dinner, and she had the TV on for a little while in the background, and it wasn't the show she was watching. It just kind of came on while we were cooking, and it was a news program, but not one of the major networks. And eventually there was a clip of a dog getting a massage who was, like, talking while he got it, like making noise.
Oh, really?
And I was like, well, that's news. I would watch that. Not all that other junk, but I'd watch that. It was really funny.
Exactly. Well.
Yeah. So these patterns affect us from the time we're little, you know? Like, what would it be like if none of the kids grew up watching that news?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of children who were really young around the 9/11 terrorist attacks, they live in such a different world than I grew up in, and it's so much more militarized. Like, when I was in school, when I was young, it was great, you know, no one had any kind of safety issue. We just kind of went in and out. We could get picked up by friends if they had a note. It was great. And, you know, when they replayed for weeks that 9/11 footage over and over and over and over again, so many people were glued to the television, and their kids were just around watching it, taking it in. And I know that it seems correlated to all of these school shootings, but these kids are now going to schools where there's lockdowns, they're behind guards. You know, you have to talk to someone who's wearing a visible gun every time they go into school. There's metal detectors. They have to wear badges. There's security cameras. Like, that alone would, I don't know, devastate me. Can you imagine being traumatized like that every single day as a little kid?
Yeah.
And I know that it's supposedly for their safety, but I think it's a little overboard, and I think it has a lot to do with their young minds creating their own world and having watched all of that trauma on TV when they're little.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that fear from when they were young is now translating into
how their reality is,
How their reality is now, yeah. And then there's those of us that are a little older than Rachel that grew up at a time where, I mean, I was at the tail end, but the fear of like nuclear war was big, and we had that movie The Day After, which showed what happened to a city when a bomb was detonated, and all these people hiding and living with illness from exposure. And I suppose we're still replaying those fears again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that duck and cover drill when I was in kindergarten, but I think they stopped it right after that. Yeah.
So patterns keep repeating themselves. I mean, just like they say, history repeats itself until we learn our lesson. But what's interesting is the history doesn't have to repeat itself. You take responsibility for your own experience. You can kind of shift even what's going on in the bigger picture. And the more of us that do that, the more, as a mass consciousness, we start creating something new.
Yeah.
So it starts on the individual level.
Definitely. Yeah. A really good astrologer named Eric Francis, he has a phrase for when Chiron is in Pisces. And I think it's Chiron in Pisces. Or Chiron in Aries. Something like that. It has to do with Chiron. But he says the personal is political. And that's exactly what he's talking about. It's when our feelings and emotions and our actions and beliefs and patterns is what we're seeing on the mass scale. And it's just true when you think about it. Like, from whatever your perspective is, you're going to attract exactly your views and your perspectives into what you're seeing the world do. Mm-hmm. You're like, I see the world improving, and I'm just seeing that we're hearing about more bad things because these patterns are coming up to be cleared so that we can evolve, because we can't take them with us. We've got to leave them here. So everything's coming up to be cleared, and that's why we're hearing about so many more horrible things. But when in actuality, we're getting better. We're lightening up. Mm-hmm. And we're lightening up because all this crap's coming to the surface and we're scooping it away. So that's my view anyway. But a lot of other people's view is that everything's getting worse. Mm. So I think it's just, you have your own world. You really do. Mm. I totally believe that. Like, it's, yeah, we make of it what we want, what we're willing to do. You know, how are we willing to vibrate every day?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what do you think we can offer listeners today? Do you think it's for them to start improving something in their life? I suppose recognition is the first thing. So when you're having issues with a friend or family member, pull up objectively and just look at it almost from an outsider's point of view. You know, what is the issue here? Try not to take the, well, I'm right and they're wrong, but really, what's the conflict in the end? What does it really boil down to? If you had a moderator sitting there listening to both sides, they would say what in the end? That one person doesn't feel listened to and the other person feels victimized, or something. And then perhaps just sit with that in a short meditation and just ask yourself, like, where is this coming from? Is it something from my childhood that's bubbling up and playing over and over again? How do you think, if you don't, I mean, the process is one way, but I think meditation or just giving it some thought and just asking your higher self, like, what is this really?
Like, I often ask myself, why am I creating this? Mm-hmm. Like, what is the point? Because I do like an intellectual answer sometimes. Mm-hmm. I do like to know why, because I'm human. Yeah. It's not necessary, but it's helpful. And so oftentimes, though, I need a little space in order to get an answer. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm in a heated moment or mood or I'm upset, I can't ask at that point because that vibration won't allow me to have the perspective of knowing the answer. So I normally drive around. That's like my therapy. I love driving, and even when I don't have my fancy car. And so that kind of clears my head. It gets me moving in space and stuff, and then I can normally get a quick little answer. But really, this is the hard part. It's the easiest thing to do is to realize that you're upset. Realize you're in a position you don't want to be in, right? You don't want to be crying. You don't want to be mad. Feel it, though. Yeah, allow yourself to just be mad, be frustrated, be upset, cry. Because we've all had that experience of when we just let ourselves cry, in a couple minutes, we feel like nothing ever happened. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I'm done. Mm-hmm. That felt good, but yeah, that happens to me, or to feel frustrated, and then all of a sudden you're laughing because you're so silly that you just yelled in your car or threw something, and then you're over it and you're like, wow, that was really fun. Yeah. So just feel it, don't judge yourself, and then decide how you want to feel and feel it. Mm-hmm. Everybody has some kind of memory that they can pull up in their inventory to remember how to feel happy. Or can you remember a time when you felt peaceful? Can you remember a time when you felt wealthy? you have access to that in your repertoire. So find out what you want to feel and allow yourself to feel it. And that's all there is to it. Put it in your body. And you'll notice instantly that your posture is different, that your face muscles are arranged in a different way, whether it's like smirking or smiling or just relaxed. You physiologically change instantly. You don't have to do anything with your mind. If you just choose how you want to feel and feel it. And it's not always easy to do, but allowing yourself to feel that stuckness or the anger or resentment first kind of neutralizes that state long enough for you to then have a conscious choice to change your vibration. So that sounds doable, right?
It does. It does. It's self-awareness. So everybody who's listening, just be aware. You know, tonight when you go out and have dinner with somebody, if it's not enjoyable, ask yourself why. What about this relationship is not working, and just face it. Feel it, face it, and see if you can neutralize that and attract something else.
Yeah. And then look for the humor in everything, because holy crap, everything is funny. So an example is, I just played out a big family pattern that had been going on for a long time over the weekend that gave me all of those emotions that we just talked about. And but before that happened, my pipes where I was staying got backed up, literally overflowing with crap. And it's like, that's what happened. We just, you know, the person that I was with, we had to have that overflow. We had to just let it all out and both take responsibility for our part in it. And now I can laugh about it because that's exactly what happened in the physical world along with the emotional world, and it's like, could not be more perfect. And that happened to a client of mine when we started our work together, one of my diamond clients who is now a self-love coach. In the beginning couldn't even feel peace or happiness. You know, it's just, can be a really remarkable transformation if you do these things that we're talking about. And when we first started coaching together, her septic tank overflowed. And it's like her favorite spot to be in was outside on the porch. And then every time she'd go outside, right, it would smell like poop.
Full of crap.
Yes, it was full of crap. So, you know, this all feels really heavy and, you know, horrible sometimes, and we can feel really victimized, but in the end, we're projecting this, we're creating this for our own benefit, and there really is a lot of humor in it.
Yeah, there is, especially, the little mishaps like that.
Yeah.
You're like,
like, this is literal.
Yeah, I'm still working on the why. It's got to be a past life thing. With we have a couple that we're best friends with, and they live in another state, and when I think back to all the different trips we've had with them, or them coming to see us and so forth, there's always an issue with water. There's been freak ice storms, and they live in the south, and they weren't able to come up because they had an ice storm. We were in Minnesota. We were fine, but they couldn't come from the south. And then even a year ago, they were coming here over Easter, and we had a pipe let go in our house and had water, coming down the stairs, and we're headed to the airport, and someone was in my home doing some work and called me and said, there's water everywhere. I'm like, wow. So, yeah, obviously I'm creating something. There's something there.
Yeah.
It's just funny, those mishaps. They're not just happening for no reason.
Right.
They're telling us something.
Yeah. And like in the financial sense, Megan and I have both had a real turnaround there, where when we just let go of it, when we just understood this and just kind of relaxed, let the money come in when it wanted to, we both do it. We check our accounts and we're like, well, it's there. Like, we keep spending money, but it keeps refilling. It's pretty interesting and pretty effortless, and there's so much less stress involved when we just realize this really is our creation. This whole thing is just a big projection, a big illusion.
The big play. So patterns, if you want to learn more about patterns and dissolving those, and you also want to join our our book club discussion, which is coming up in about 3 weeks. Grab a copy of the book Busting Loose from the Money Game by Robert Scheinfeld. I found it, I actually got it on my Nook, but it's also up on Amazon. I think there's even used copies up there. Grab a copy and see if you can read about half, get through the first 9 chapters or so, and join us on October 14th for that conversation.
Yeah, that's going to be really great. And someone on our Soulfullpreneur page was telling us that she read Busting Loose from the Business Game instead because she had access to a free copy of that. And just so you know, you can read that one too. It has the same information in it in the first 9 chapters. And even if you want to read that for the second half too, it's basically the same book. I read them both, and I love them both. So I would recommend either one, just so you know. And keep us informed. You know, we're here on the Facebook page. Let us know how you're doing with it. You know, someone said they were having kind of an issue with some of the things in the book, and, you know, we can help support you through that. So, and besides, can you tell we love talking about the book?
Right.
So it's never a bother.
Well, just because it said Busting Loose from the Money Game, like we said, it just applies to so much more than money. Busting Loose from the family game and the friend game and the pet game sometimes. So
yeah. Why don't we talk about Inception?
Oh,
because Megan got me to watch this movie called Inception, and Mallory's waving her hand too. She loves it, and I was a little skeptical because I can be kind of a spiritual snob and be like, all right, is this something I've seen before? Is this something like, is it going to be new? Is it going to be fun? And it was awesome. It was really cool. And when I watched it, I wasn't blown away or anything because I was familiar with the concept because I've heard people talk about it. But since then, it stayed with me, and I think it really helped crystallize more information in me, and I feel a little more embodied now in this area of this is my projection. This is exactly my higher self is sleeping, right, in the same spot. We're all together. All of our, you know, energetic bodies are hanging out, and we're all just having this fun vacation, co-creating together in the same dream. It's a little more complicated than that, but the premise is there. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I've watched that movie 3 times, and it's a challenge for me. I like it, but you have to really pay attention. But and that different parts of our life just keep going deeper and deeper. Some of those core things that really bother us are some of those things that I think are inception deeply in us, and it's just the digging out and releasing, and it's sometimes in multiple layers. And so as you let go, some things will shift and improve, and then something might circle back. You're like, I thought I got rid of this problem. Go through that process again and let it go again until you kind of peel all those layers.
Yeah, it's a really good visual representation of what we're talking about today, about how we can have this desired outcome, and it's perfectly sparkly, and it's wonderful, and we're excited about it. But if we don't face the things that are blocking that from happening for us, then we won't get there. And that's in the movie. It's really cool. Yeah. I love it. Because remember, manifestation is not about creating something from nothing.
Right.
Like, it's not about the universe or something outside of you delivering you a package. We are the ones, literally, that create everything. And so if we wanted to create a dump truck of money, we could create a dump truck of money if there was no competing belief inside of us. So I have a competing belief inside of me that I could not just have a dump truck of money come up to my door. But there are plenty of people who do win the lottery and who do have weird things happen to them, you know, and because they don't have those competing beliefs. My recommendation is not that you go and decide you want to win the lottery. It's that you follow your joy and your excitement, and that's how your higher self is going to lead you to your manifestation. But that's just kind of my example. So you're creating everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the
patterns.
And the patterns, yeah.
Well, awesome. That was a good a good chat about patterns, and I'm glad that we could talk a little bit about busting loose again.
I know. We could have a whole show, like, forget Soulfullpreneur. What about busting loosepreneur?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's essentially what we're doing. You know, I'm in business totally for selfish reasons. I mean, I don't have a boss. I can do whatever I want. I could travel whenever I want. Mm-hmm. I can make as much money as I want. I can have as many clients. I can pick who I want to be around. I mean, it's total freedom of lifestyle and options, and I can be as picky as I want, you know, about whatever I do, where I go, what I say, who I am. And I get to integrate my higher self into my life more by only following my excitement. So I'm in business for me, and of course that's going to benefit other people, because the more soul energy I bring to earth, the more everyone is affected and, you know, raised up. And by you doing that too, it may sound selfish to yourself, but it's actually a really good thing to just be you. Yeah. Just follow your desires and your happiness and all those really good feelings. It's really okay. It seems really scary sometimes to head in that direction if you're not used to it, but you put yourself first and everybody benefits. Everybody. So I just want you to know that. Yeah. Bust through your patterns. Feel okay doing what you want to do, and life gets really, really rad.
Yep. It's a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, should we just mention our network and...
Yeah.
Or did you have final
yeah, just, I guess another chat about Sherry. It's just, you know, we had this guest on, and she was really great and really intriguing. You know, she does retreats to Mexico and really goes to the perfect spot for her guest benefit to reinforce her teaching. And I'm such a travel nerd. That was like really eye-opening to me that she could arrange all that and deal with the legal stuff and the insurance stuff. And, you know, I'm really excited about her webinar because I want to learn how to do it. So we have her link to her free webinar on our Facebook page. So go check it out. I noticed some of my friends are already signed up to go.
Already are clicking through there.
Yeah, so basically, like, you know, her whole thing is that you can travel and teach and, you know, do all the things that excite you, but also make really awesome money and not have it be such a headache. So that's what she's going to talk about in her webinar. So, yeah, go for it. We love to support our Soulfullpreneur guests.
Yep. So Sherry Rosenthal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you'll see her amazing haircut if you go to our site. Her picture is there on her link. So.
Well, great.
Yeah.
So just to close things, we are part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network on Blog Talk Radio, and we have shows every day of the week on the air. And on Tuesdays, there's actually our show, and then there's one in the evening. So at 9 o'clock tonight, there's Victoria Vives Wong's show, Earth, Sky, People, Your Bridge Between Heaven and Earth, and she talks about living in oneness with one another, Mother Earth, and life beyond.
And on Wednesdays, we have Enlightenment Evolution Hour with Rob Gossier. He's the creator of this network, and he channels a being called Treb, who has fabulous information. And he also has shows, guests on his show, like metaphysical teachers and other channelers. And you can learn more about him at trebchanneling.com.
And then Thursdays at 9, we have Philip Malika's Consciousness Evolution Hour, and he discusses a wide range of metaphysical topics from the perspective of the fifth dimension.
Yeah, and he's such a great guy. Everybody is. This whole network is filled with totally amazing people. We can include ourselves in that, right? We're totally amazing, too.
Let's see, Friday night.
Friday night. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked there thinking about how awesome we are. Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have the Earth Experience with Kalina Angel, and she discusses our soul's expansion through our human experiences on Earth.
And then Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, we have the Odyssey Ascension with Roxanne Swainhart, And Roxy is a channeler and ascension guide, and she will answer your questions about past lives and soul purpose and energy activations and all things ascension.
And Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, is About Oneness with Karen Newman. And her show focuses on celebrating the ongoing conscious awakening of our planet and our realization of oneness and unconditional love. Karen is an author, lecturer, integrated channel, and intuitive.
And then Monday nights at 9:30 Eastern, we have Heart to Heart Talk Radio with Daniel Scranton. And Daniel is a channel, Reiki master, and sound healer, and he takes callers and he has guests, and they generate high-frequency discussions on anything and everything related to living on planet Earth and beyond.
Yeah. And I just want to say one more thing about family. Like, you know, we're all projecting this, and everything is really, it does make a big impact on us. Like, when I was growing up, every single day before I went to bed, my dad told me that I could do and be whatever I wanted to be when I grew up. And when you're young, you're like, oh, thanks, Dad, you know, whatever. But that really impacted me. And, I mean, look at me now. I have purple hair. I do whatever I want, right? I'm being whoever I want to be. And I'm in a totally untraditional profession. And I'm surviving. Like, I'm thriving. It's fabulous. And I think if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have allowed this to come into my life. I would have had so much more deprogramming to do. Mm-hmm. So just like how Megan's raised Mallory to be such an amazing person, you know, what you say to your kids really matters. And I just thank my dad all the time for telling me that. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yay. Yay. So tell your kids good things and tell your friends good things, because that helps too.
Yep. Encourage everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. Be whatever they want outside that box.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, it was so nice to have you here in Connecticut.
I know.
I look forward to seeing you again probably during the holiday time.
Yep.
Get you back here in the throes of winter.
I know. I'll need more than just a sweater next time.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, we will talk to you next week then.
Yep. Have a great week, everybody. We love you.